You're not going to believe what just got dropped inside a legal filing. Like, of all the places you would expect to find a heart-to-heart conversation between two of the most famous women alive, a court document is probably the last place on your list. But here we are. And trust me, once you hear what was actually said, you're going to want to stay till the very end because this story has layers. Hit that subscribe button, because this channel is where we get into the real stuff, not just the surface-level headlines everyone else is covering. Let me set the scene for you. Blake Lively has been in the middle of a very serious legal battle against her. It ends with us co-star Justin Baldoni. She sued him over allegations of sexual harassment and retaliation. Baldoni denied everything. Now, that case on its own is already a lot to unpack. But what nobody saw coming was that buried deep inside the court documents that got unsealed on January 20th, 2026, were private text messages between Blake and her best friend Taylor Swift. And not just casual "hey, how are you" texts. We're talking about a real, raw, honest conversation between two best friends who had quietly drifted apart and were trying to find their way back to each other. Now, before we even get to what they said, let me give you a little background, because context matters here. Think about where both of these women were at this point in their lives. Taylor was in the final stretch of her Eras tour, one of the most massive musical journeys any artist has ever pulled off. She had been on the road for over a year and a half, giving everything she had night after night across multiple continents. The woman was running on fumes. Meanwhile, Blake had been going through months of legal chaos, public scrutiny, and the emotional weight of everything that comes with fighting a serious lawsuit in the public eye. Two best friends, both absolutely buried under their own mountains of stress, and somewhere in between all of that, the friendship had started to feel a little different. Fans had already started picking up on it. You know how it is when two people who are usually inseparable suddenly seem a little distant? People notice. There was no big blow-up, no dramatic falling out, no public shade being thrown. Just a quiet shift that the people paying close attention could feel. And honestly, that kind of slow drift is sometimes scarier than an actual fight, because at least with a fight you know what you are dealing with. The slow drift just leaves you guessing. Here is where it gets really good. Ryan Reynolds, yes, Blake's husband, actually pulled her aside and told her to go directly to Taylor and just ask if things were okay. And I love this detail because it shows you exactly the kind of person Ryan is behind closed doors. He saw his wife carrying this thing around, and he said, "Stop waiting, just ask her." So Blake did. On December 4th, 2024, she picked up her phone and sent Taylor a message that honestly, most people would have been too nervous to send even to a regular friend, let alone to Taylor Swift. She basically told Taylor that she had been feeling like a bad friend. She said that for months she had been completely consumed by her own situation, just pouring all her stress and sadness into every single conversation, and that Taylor had been the one carrying her through all of it. She even called herself a sad sack, which is honestly kind of endearing. She said Taylor had been generous enough to not only show up for her, but to also let her off the hook for being so far in her own head. And then she asked the thing she was actually afraid to ask. She asked if everything was okay between them. She also said she felt stupid for asking. She said she could not even fully explain why she had this feeling. It was just sitting there and she could not shake it. And I think that is the part that hits closest to home for most people watching this. Because we have all been there, right? That moment where you sense something is off with someone you care about, but you cannot point to one specific thing. And you are terrified that if you ask, you are going to make it weird. Blake Lively, with all of her confidence and all of her success, was sitting there feeling that exact same thing. Now Taylor's response is where things get interesting. Because she did not immediately say, "Oh girl, everything is totally fine. You are overthinking it. Stop worrying." She did not do that. She was honest. She told Blake that she was not wrong. She said that in recent months, she had been feeling a shift in the way Blake talked to her. And she also said something that tells you everything about where Taylor was emotionally in that moment. She said she was exhausted. Not just tired, not just a little worn out. Exhausted in every single part of her life. And look, when you think about what Taylor had been carrying, that makes complete sense. She was days away from finishing a tour that had demanded more from her physically and emotionally than most people will ever experience in a lifetime. She had been pouring herself into that tour while also trying to be present for her best friend who was going through a crisis. She had been stretched in every direction. So yes, when a friendship starts to feel a little one-sided during all of that, you feel it. You might not say anything, you might keep showing up anyway, but you feel it. But here's the part that completely changes the tone of the whole conversation. After being honest about all of that, after acknowledging that yes, there had been a real shift, Taylor told Blake it was not a big deal. And I know that might sound like she was brushing it under the rug, but she was not. She had already named the truth. She had already said, yes, I noticed. Yes, it was real. And then she chose to say, it was not bigger than the friendship. That is a very specific thing to do. That is someone deciding that the relationship matters more than the grievance. And Blake, to her credit, had already walked in with zero defensiveness. She had already admitted fault before she even knew if there was anything to admit. She had already said she wanted the chance to be a better friend if she had unintentionally done something. She showed up to that conversation with her hands open, and Taylor met her there. What gets me about this whole thing is how quietly brave both of them were in that exchange. There was no drama, no ultimatums, no one storming off. Just two people who clearly love each other, having the kind of uncomfortable, honest conversation that most friendships never survive long enough to have. And they had it over text because sometimes that is actually easier. Sometimes you can say the thing in a message that you could never get out face to face. Now here is the wild part. None of this was ever supposed to be public. These were private texts between two best friends. They ended up in a court document because of the legal case, pulled in as part of the broader collection of evidence and materials connected to Blake's lawsuit. And once those documents got unsealed, every entertainment outlet in the world had them within hours. Which means the most personal conversation these two women had with each other just got read by millions of people before they even had a chance to process it themselves. That is a strange thing to sit with. But what is also true is that the way those messages read, the honesty in them, the care, the way both women showed up for each other even when things were hard, it says something really good about who they both are. This was not messy. This was not messy at all. This was two genuinely good friends navigating a rough patch with more maturity and warmth than most people manage. The friendship between Taylor and Blake has been very visible for years. Concerts, holidays, family moments, double dates with Ryan and Travis. Fans have followed it closely and cared about it genuinely. So when the whispers started that things might not be completely fine between them, people were paying attention. And the unsealed documents gave everyone the answer they had been quietly hoping for. They're okay. Better than okay, actually, because they chose each other even when it was uncomfortable. The legal battle with Baldoni is still ongoing, and that is a whole separate story with a lot more to unfold. But what those court documents accidentally gave the world was something that had nothing to do with the lawsuit itself. It gave people a real look at what true friendship looks like under pressure. Not the polished public version. The real version. The scared, tired, I hope I have not messed this up version. And watching two of the most famous women in the world navigate that with grace and honesty is honestly kind of refreshing. Because at the end of the day, underneath all the tours and the lawsuits and the red carpets and the magazine covers, Blake Lively sat on her couch one December night and sent a nervous text to her best friend asking if things were okay between them. And Taylor Swift, exhausted and stretched thin, and just days from the finish line of the biggest chapter of her career, took the time to respond with honesty and with love. That is not a celebrity story. That is just people who matter to each other figuring it out. And that right there is why this story deserved more than just a quick headline. This is the kind of thing that reminds you that no matter how big someone's life looks from the outside, the things that keep us up at night are usually the same. Did I show up enough? Did I take someone for granted? Is my person still my person? Blake asked that question out loud. And the answer was yes. If you are enjoying this channel and you want more stories told like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now and tap the notification bell. There is a lot more coming and you do not want to be the last one to hear it.